Okay, so I'll be redoing all the reviews for all the Amada because um, every single one of them has changed to a point where they're so drastically different. And I'll be going over them as I get to them. Um, but I'm gonna start off with this guy because he's kind of got some story significance. At the time of me making this, I do not have the art station post set up, so he doesn't have art station posters yet. But I'll do the lore and then the height measurements. I finally found it! Yay! Um, the Traveler, a immortal entity that is the Mata's warrior when dealing with lesser threats, that he is the best suited to handle. An expert in all forms of combat and gifted with the Mata's Konohi powers at which he can switch between, and with immortality that makes him ageless, which allows him to chronicle what happens over the countless millennia that has passed. Now that he has collected all of the Nuva stones, the gate between the great spirits and the mortals can be reopened. So basically, in the lore, Legends of Wahi has changed so much that it's basically, I guess you'd call it a alternate universe continuation of Bionicle G1. I don't want to go into details. I want to do something with that in the future, but basically, this guy is he's somebody that's out there to reawaken them so they can do their duty and everything, and that's kind of his purpose. He kind of has he's the one that spends most of the time with the Amada and everything, and I'll be getting to them later on. But let's talk about his height. I'm gonna do two height comparisons for him because his staff is actually pretty long, and I don't want to go by just that. If I go by the head, let me just make sure my measurement is correct. Let's look here. He's about 2 or 3 notches short of 6 inches. Let's do the staff now. Come on, don't give me any issues. But about a few notches over 8 inches. So yeah, he's pretty tall. His blade is also really tall. Let's get a little closer so you can see him better. Or I'll give him a 360, then I'll bring him closer. Yes, this is actual fabric. I kind of want to do something like this more in the future with all of them. They're all going to have some form of fabric. This is just giving more of a wastelander kind of vibe, like he's been out in the waste. That's why his shoulder armor looks more like a bone, like a skull of an animal. I want to kind of do that more often. Excuse me. I want to do this more often with all the Legends of Wahi builds. And in fact, you can kind of see the shade of the, or the shadow of all of them on the side here. They will be gotten to soon. But yeah, he basically just serves the role of being the guy that is. He's basically the one that just handles all the problems that the Mata cannot. Which the Mata, since they are spirits, they can only be out in the mortal realm for so long. He is able to be between the two because of his small stature, which allows him to be able to do a lot of things. And like what I said with his cloth, I want to do that more often. In fact, Tiki, if I'm correct, has this little satchel which I sewn together. I'm kind of getting into sewing just to make this work a little better. Haven't seen somebody done a satchel. I know. I try to look up how to do so. Not the point. But yeah, the only thing I would change on him is this cloak thing. I would change this because it's kind of it's the bottom it's the bottom sewn part of shirts. I had some shirts that were falling apart. I just cut the bottom section off and just wrapped it around the arms and legs and everything. And I want to kind of get into a little bit more sewing where I sew them different kinds of fabrics. I've only sewn 2 things of fabric: a satchel for Tiki and some kind of like little cloth thing for one of the Mayaks, which I'll be getting into them later on. A lot has changed again. A little disjointed in how I'm saying this. It's been a while since I've done this. The breakdown of the elephant does not count. It really doesn't. But yeah, he has all the different kinds of articulation you would expect out of him. Because all the ball joints are ball to ball or ball to socket. So he has a lot of range. except when his arm comes off. He has a great range of articulation that he can get to. Um, he has, I put extra pieces on the feet so he's a little bit more easily to be stable. And his staff is something he can wield. I always have to change up a little bit so he can wield it better. I might just say that he does it like this. Like maybe wields it like that if I want more pose him in that purpose. But yeah. He's supposed to have the skull of an animal on his shoulder as shoulder armor. He doesn't really need the armor because he's immortal. It doesn't matter. He could have his head chopped off and it won't matter to him. But he has the armor because he likes it. And he likes having something as little trinkets. He's kind of a collector in some regards. Always collecting unique trinkets and items that that is hard to come by. And he often is seen doing all kinds of things for the game that he would have. But at some point, he needs to waken up the Armada, and here we are in the story. But, yeah. The Traveler is kind of a character I do want to delve in a little bit more into. But, like I said, I'm going to save that for when I actually... Oh, God, I'm tired. I want to save that, the delving into who he is at a later date, because I kind of want to figure out how I want to go about that. There's a lot of ideas I want to try. I just don't know how well I'll be able to do it just yet. But that's basically the Traveler. He's green because that's the pieces I choose the most. Because these parts I don't use as much as the Azure ones that I have on Elu's legs. I actually use those. So I had to change them to green. If he ever wants to use any of the Armada's powers, or their Kanohi powers as I'm calling them, he just needs to change his color. Like right now he's set to Liwa. He can switch to Pahatu and he's brown. Let's see, Tahu's red, Gali is blue, etc., etc. And he just switches between them to look like them. I'm gonna try and see if I can get armor pieces and make exactly 6 of him if possible. So there'll probably be a lot of changes in the future to where he has the colors of all the Armada. So I could just have a version of him with each of the Armada that I have with me right now. But yeah, that's the Traveler. Not much has to be said about him. He's kind of a simplistic character to talk about, because I don't want to delve into his lore just yet. I kind of want to just get him situated before I go about going with the lore portion of it, because I might be doing a comic in the future, honestly, with these characters that would allow me to kind of tell their story while being so easy to do that it's something I can do consistently. And out of all of them, I don't think there's any real changes I need to do to any more of them until I get more specific parts. I can see right now, just look at them, like 1 or 2, maybe 3 of them that I want to revise a tiny bit just to get them a little more in the direction I want them to be. Let's see. But yeah, there's not much else to say. So I'll leave you. I'll say goodbye and prepare for these knuckleheads at some point. Yeah, like I said, a lot has changed.